Cruise news time. Well, I've got a huge story of inconvenience. I got to tell you about a cruise ship delayed, returning back to port 5 hours late. Also, there's a cruise line out there that has taken ownership of its newest ship, Royal Caribbean. It needs money, and they're going to get it. Also, I got to tell you about another rescue at sea, and I want to show you some of the included food from the NCL getaway, and see what you guys think about it. Cruise news. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest in all things cruising, cruise news, and views in your face. Cruise news story number one, a serious cautionary tale. There's a whole cruise ship worth of people that were delayed getting back to port 5 hours, and a whole cruise ship worth of people that could not get on their cruise ship for 5 hours. And also, my disembarkation from the NCL getaway did not go as planned. And so I want to tell those two stories and then, give you some tips at the end of it. The first story, the Carnival Magic was set to return to the port of New Orleans yesterday, and they sent out letters to the next set of cruisers that the cruise ship would be delayed for 5 hours. Letters were also sent to passengers on board that the return to New Orleans would be delayed for 5 hours without really much explanation. The people that were waiting to board that cruise ship, all of their times got pushed 5 hours, and the leaving of the cruise ship from New Orleans wasn't going to happen until 8 p.m. And at this point, we don't know why, but I guess the why is not as important as the impact of this delay. And let me tie it into my disembarkation from the NCL getaway. I was doing self-assist, which means I was carrying off my own luggage. They told us to come down to deck 7 at 7:30 a.m. and that we should be disembarking the ship sometime between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m. Well, I made my way down there about 7:15, and the line was already starting to form, so I got in line. And 7:30 came, we did not disembark. 7:45 came, we did not disembark. They kept throwing up announcements like, well, we're still waiting to clear customs. And it became one of those scenarios like, wow, how long is it going to be? We finally were able to get off the cruise ship about 8:45. So an hour and 30 minutes after I got in line, I was finally able to leave the cruise ship. And once we got to customs, it became apparent maybe what the challenge was. They have facial recognition where I was at in Port Canaveral. Well, all of the facial recognition systems were down. So my assumption is that they're probably trying to get all those systems up, and then finally they got to a point where, well, we got to let people off the cruise ship. But all in all, I got in line at 7:15, and I was to my car at 9 o'clock. No big deal for me. I just had to drive home. So it was just a little bit of a delay standing there for an hour and 30 minutes. But as in the story with the Magic, there were people in line with me that had airplane flights at like 10 a.m. And so the reason I bring up these stories at all is just to caution people that are traveling to the cruise ship or traveling from the cruise ship. Make sure you give yourself enough time for delay. Usually that means flying in the day before your cruise as early as possible. And then make sure when you're leaving a cruise ship and you're going to catch a flight out, I would do that in the afternoon. I would never book like a pre-12 o'clock flight time just because you don't know what's going to happen. And so for the people that didn't get out until 9 o'clock and they still had to go to the Orlando airport, get checked in, go through security, get all that stuff to happen to get like on a 10 or a 10:30 flight, I'm pretty sure that they probably had to adjust that. Of course, in the case of the Carnival Magic where the delay was 5 full hours, well, you know that a lot of people miss flights. Carnival offering compensation, I believe up to $200 for change flight fees, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a great cautionary tale, just a reminder that if you are getting off the cruise ship and you have to fly somewhere, I wouldn't book that flight before 12 a.m. Let me kick it over to you. What time do you usually fly out on the day that you leave the cruise ship? Do you have a good rule of thumb about that? You never know. I guess that's the moral of the story, as it were. There you go. Cruise news story number 2, Norwegian Cruise Line. Well, they're the proud owners of a brand new cruise ship called the NCL Prima, delivered to them from the Fincantieri shipyard. And the design of this Prima is unlike any other Norwegian cruise ships that you have seen. I saw a lot of promotional video for it on this last NCL cruise that I was on. It's a pretty cool looking ship. It's got a multi-deck go-kart track. It's got an interesting water slide. It's got a huge multi-deck dry slide. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on this cruise ship. Fortunately, I will get to be on one of the early appearances of the Prima when it comes to the United States. I think maybe like a 2-day sailing or something like that. I don't know exactly what the deets are, but I think that's in November. I cannot wait to see this cruise ship. This one is probably one of my most anticipated. Let me tell you, I've been on 3 Norwegian cruises now. My main focus for cruising, the thing I like the most is entertainment. And Norwegian is quickly climbing the charts of having the best entertainment at sea in my mind. I saw the $1 Million Quartet, which is a show that I'd seen in Las Vegas before. It was amazing. And so many great shows on that cruise, from circus acts like juggling to wonderful singing. And along those lines, Norwegian just recently announced what the big show on the Prima would be. It's a Donna Summer tribute show featuring a star-studded cast, including Kimberly Locke, who was an early contestant on American Idol. So if you watched any American Idol, that name will probably be familiar to you. So yeah, they promised to have some great entertainment on the Prima, and I can't wait to jump on there and preview it and share it with you guys. But it's always good that, you know, it's one of those shipbuilding milestones, the taking ownership, the writing the check for the ship. Yeah, it's exciting. Cruise news story number 3, another story of Cubans trying to escape the Cuban regime by water to make their way to the United States, but getting in trouble because the vessel that they have not necessarily able to make that journey. The Carnival Sunshine rescued 12 Cuban refugees in a small craft just south of Key West, able to assist them. And of course, you know how the thing goes. They turn them over to the Coast Guard, and most likely those folks will be returned to Cuba. I don't know what to say about it. It's you know, we should all count our blessings that we've been fortunate enough to live in a country where escape is not the first thing on our mind, where obviously for these folks, escape is on their mind. So yeah, hope everybody's safe there, and you know, wishing the best for people that are living in oppression all over the world. I just realized I forgot the blue light. This looks a little drab. Sorry, everybody. Let me grab the blue light. How about that? There's a nice purple hue. All right, so we got the light. That's a plus. I got to tell you about Royal Caribbean raising money. I also have to show you some of my food from the NCL getaway. But before we do that, let me quickly invite you to subscribe if you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising. Did I scare you? Cruising. Please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. A huge thank you in advance. Royal Caribbean, they're trying to raise $900 million. And I read through the article about how they're trying to raise $900 million, and I realized I just don't really understand anything about corporate finance or investment finance, that kind of thing. Convertible notes, all kinds of stuff that I don't understand. It doesn't sound like it's just a classic stock sale. But the end result is raising $900 million. The challenge for all of these cruise companies is they had to take debt multiple times. They had to get money through the shutdown to stay open. And each time they had to take, you know, debt that wasn't any better than the time before. So imagine in the beginning you might have pristine credit, and then you run through all that credit, and then you need some more credit, and then, you know, you're going to have to take a higher interest rate, and then eventually you're talking to some guy named Shecky at the pool hall making some sort of crazy break-your-arm loan. I'm not saying that they took some loan shark loans, but they've got some debt that is really expensive, and so now cruise lines are raising money to pay off, no disrespect to anybody named Shecky or pool halls, because I spent a lot of time in pool halls, but yeah, a lot of money in weird debt, and so they have to raise more money to get out of the weird debt to get back. It's the way it goes. No bailouts for cruise companies because they're not necessarily U.S. companies. But Royal Caribbean, following suit, we talked about it, I think last week, that Carnival raised $1 billion with new stock, but now Royal is raising $900 million with some other form of money-raising dealio. I don't know if they've thought about it, but when I was in high school, we used to sell light bulbs. And then one year we sold M&Ms in the box to other students so that we could go to California for a trip. I don't know if they've considered doing anything like that. Did you ever have to sell Reese's Cups or M&Ms, and then you would eventually eat all of them, and then your parents would yell at you because they would have to pay for the Reese's Cups that you ate? I'm pretty sure they ate some of the Reese Cups too. I don't know. I don't want to indict my parents, but my dad was a big fan of the Reese Cups. But I know I probably ate more of the Reese Cups I was supposed to sell. Light bulbs, though, you couldn't eat those. Those were a good thing to sell. Did you ever sell anything in high school to raise money to keep your cruise company afloat? Maybe. But Royal, raising money. That's the end of that story. Where are we going? All right, let me show you some food from the NCL getaway. Now, my plan for the NCL getaway was to stick with the included food. They have a lot of interesting included food options, and I did have one specialty dining voucher that I did use for the Brazilian steakhouse. I showed you that food, but I struggled to find included food that I thought was delicious. Interesting run for me when it comes to included food on Norwegian. My first Norwegian cruise ship was the Joy. They had the 24-hour included food called the Local, and some of the best chicken wings and a Reuben sandwich and other things that I'd ever had at sea. And so I was very excited when I was going to the NCL Dawn for my included food experience. They didn't have the Local. They had the old branded Oceans, which is essentially the Local, same menu as it were. And I got the chicken wings and the Reuben that I really enjoyed on the Joy, and it wasn't as good. And so I didn't know what that meant because I felt like the food should be consistent across all the ships. And then this time, well, it was even worse. I don't know what they did to the chicken wings, but the buffalo seasoning tasted like taco sauce. Have you ever, you know what buffalo sauce is supposed to taste like? Oh, you know, reddish, orangish, hot sauce, vinegary, buttery. This tasted like brown taco sauce, like the stuff that you would have mixed with your ground meat and then they slapped it on. It wasn't good. And then the Reuben that I tried here, I don't know what happened. It wasn't toasted. So I'm concerned. I go on the Encore this week and back to something branded as the Local, so it's going to be interesting to see if the food is good. But I did the main dining room a few times. I did it once for lunch, and then I did it twice for dinner. When I was there for lunch, I started off with some hummus and pita. It was okay. And then moussaka. That was the first time I'd ever had moussaka. That was really good. It's almost like an eggplant lasagna. It was delicious. I really enjoyed this dish. And then when I went there for dinner, I had this cheese ravioli. It was okay. It was a little cold, but then I got this whole plate of bacon wrapped shrimp and grits. That was delicious. And then the last night that I was on the cruise was prime rib night. I had the scallops. I also had the bruschetta, and then I had the prime rib, which was good. And then I had a few desserts along the way. The best dessert on that ship, though, I will give it to Oceans. The carrot cake was thebomb.com. And let me hit you with one more included food option. Wait till you hear how long I waited for this food. I'll show you the food first. These are the dishes from Shanghai, the noodle bar on the NCL getaway. Had a noodle dish, had a rice dish, and then I had all of the appetizers. By far, this restaurant was the most packed restaurant every time that it was open. For lunch, it opened at noon, and if you didn't get in line by like 11:15 or 11:30, you weren't going to be a part of the first seating. The day that I finally got in there was the last day of the cruise, and interestingly, the crew member that was doing the seating said that on that day, somebody had gotten in line at 10:20 in the morning for the 12 o'clock seating. So the way it worked for me that day is I got a pager. Finally got seated about 1 p.m., so this was an hour wait to get to this food. The food was good. I don't know if it was worth the hour wait. I definitely don't think it would have been worth an hour and 40 minutes of standing in line, but it was nice to be able to get noodles on the cruise ship. What do you think? Would you wait an hour for that food? Leave a comment below. And let me hit you with one more tidbit before I throw the show over to you and your comments. The word that I used on Friday, and then I used it a couple times yesterday that people got triggered over, is irregardless. And many folks have said that irregardless isn't a word, that it's more proper to use regardless, and that's true. It is more proper to use regardless, but to say that irregardless is not a word is just poppycock. It is a word, it's used informally, and it's been a word for hundreds of years. So put that in your grammatical pipe and smoke it. How about that? Irregardless or regardless of where we stand on these grammar issues, much love to the Loca fam. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. And if you want to see some more cruise food, go check this out. This is a blast from the past. All the food that I ate on Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas. And do me a solid, please. Smash the like button. Smash your phone on the table until it breaks. Don't break your property. I'm just kidding. Hit the like button. And unfortunately, if you do not hit the like button, well, then you'll never use the word regardless correctly again. You'll always say irregardless, and there'll be people in your life who want to abuse you. That's what I think is going to happen. So hit the like button. Avoid all of that, grammar police interaction. They don't wear body cams, so they can do anything they want to you, the grammar police. So yeah, hit the like button. It's Tony for Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.